¿Qué tal amigos de Oxigeno? ¿Cómo están? Nos encontramos con Kevin Wayne, que es uno de los fundadores de la banda canadiense Synth Pop Kon Kan y de enorme suceso en nuestro país en los ochentas. Hi Kevin, how are you doing? Welcome to Peru and welcome to Radio Oxigeno.
Hello, Alfredo. Nice to see you. And
Okay.
can't wait to see you in person, maybe one week.
Yes, Kon Kan in Lima. That is a great news.
Yes,
This is your first time here in Lima, right?
it will be. Yes.
Okay.
I'm very
Have
excited.
Have they told you anything about the Peruvian audience?
I've heard some things. Maybe you can tell me more.
Oh, well, the Peruvian audience is an excellent audience, very exciting people. The Peruvian audience loves synth pop too. So,
Nice.
how did your love for this music style come about?
Oh, very early. I grew up in the 80s.
Mhm.
So in 1980, I turned 14 years old. So my entire teenage years was all through the 80s.
Mhm.
And I loved all the early British, the new wave, uh, Depeche Mode and
Okay.
Duran and Spandau Ballet and many more.
Okay. And what memories do you have of the first recording you made of "I Beg Your Pardon," which
Yes,
I understand was in a basement or something like that.
it was. Yes. As a matter of fact, the very first band that
Hmm.
I was ever in when I was, I think, 14 or 15 years old, my keyboard player, a guy named Tom Gerenser,
Yeah.
uh, he was my keyboard player, and he was only, at the time, I think he was 13. And years later,
Yeah.
uh, this would be maybe 5, 6 years later. It was his recording studio in his home, of his
Okay.
parents' basement, where we recorded "I Beg Your Pardon."
Wow. And what do you feel when your music started playing in United States?
It was, um, I guess the word I could use is surreal. You
Okay.
know, um, we none of us, nobody ever expected it. Uh,
Mhm.
but I guess we just, we had the right song at the right time, and people enjoyed it, and it just started snowballing, we call it.
I heard that Atlantic Records, I don't know if it was a boss or something like that, went to a party in Canada.
He went
Uh,
to a record store.
he went to the record store, not a
Yes,
party.
he went
Okay.
to a record store. It was a record store that, at the time, it was a famous record store for DJs.
Okay.
So DJs bought all their stuff there, and they had an actual DJ playing in the store.
Okay.
And this guy asked the DJ to play me something that I've never heard before, you
Okay.
know? And yeah, and that's so he played him "I Beg Your Pardon," and he loved it, and he took it back to New York, and then one thing led to another, and we signed with Atlantic a few months later.
Wow. Well, it's
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. Like you
crazy.
say, it's surreal. Huh?
Yes.
Well, "Move to Move" was one of my favorite songs of that time.
Oh, thank you.
But when you released it, you were already feeling the pressure of international success. How did you live that time?
It was, honestly, I don't think we really had time to feel the pressure. It was everything just happened so quickly. We were making the full album while "I Beg Your Pardon" was literally taking off around the world. And
Mhm.
So yeah, there was a little bit of pressure to get the full album done and get another single. Of course, the next single was, I believe, Harry Houdini was the second single. So yeah, we already had some things started even before we, so we had the beginnings of Harry Houdini were already there, and a few of the other songs. So we already had some more things written, and we were ready to go.
Okay, and what another synth pop bands did you feel that, along with you, were the most played at the time?
Well, I guess at the time, I mean, they were before us, but certainly there were comparisons, I guess, with New Order.
Mm-hmm.
New Order, Pet Shop Boys. They were a little older than us. They were a little couple years before us. But those were the ones. Erasure.
Yes. I remember you played with the Information Society in Brazil once.
Yeah, you might be right. Yeah, you might be right. It's so long ago.
Yes,
I forget.
I know that.
I forget so many.
What was your way of working at that time? Because you have several songs that use pieces of another songs.
Yeah, we did a lot of, there was a lot of sampling in our songs. There was a lot of bits and pieces. It was sort of a, what would be considered, it was a little bit of a quirky, almost, it was a Kon-Kan thing,
Mm-hmm.
that we added these little bits and pieces of other songs in. And of course, it all started with Rose Garden.
Yes. The most important song maybe in the career of Kon Kan.
Yes.
What are we going to find in Kon Kan's show here in Lima? What do they have prepared?
Well, we've been practicing very hard, getting ready. Of course, you're gonna hear all the big hits. Of course, I beg your pardon, Harry Houdini, Puss in Boots, and we've got some more surprises.
Liberty, Simple Wishes too.
Not so sure, but maybe. But we have some other surprises. We even have a couple of things that the audience has never heard.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we're looking forward to playing those for you.
What do you think has been synth pop's contribution to the evolution of music during all this time?
Well, I certainly think a lot of the young artists now are starting more to appreciate what happened in the 80s. I think the 80s, no question, is the best decade of music ever, because there was so much variety. That's when everything started to go in so many different directions in the 80s. And no matter who you were, no matter what kind of music you liked, there was something for you.
Excellent. It's going to be a pleasure for me to hear you here in Lima. Please invite all the audience of Radio Oxigeno to the great Kon Kan's concert this September 30 here in Lima.
Yes, and I believe, so the venue, I believe, is called CC Festiva. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
CC Festiva, September 30. That's next Saturday. We can't wait.